Now, as you know, I had Manny Pacquiao winning both fights with Tim Bradley, as most people did. But there are some people who actually have Tim Bradley winning the rematch with Manny Pacquiao. Now, obviously, a great deal of those people may well be Pacquiao haters, Floyd Mayweather fans, etc., etc. But I've seen some people who I know are not Flomos, who I know are not Pacquiao haters. And I've seen some of these people say that they thought Bradley won the fight by a couple of rounds. One thing I have to say is that there's no doubt that the commentary does influence the way people score fights, because it's the way you feel during the fight which can have an impact on the way you score the fight. Sometimes for boxing fans, it's hard to be objective and just look at the facts and look at the fight without any emotion. And that's how you have to be able to score the fight accurately. And at the same time, certain things that you see the first time you watch a fight, it might look different to you the second time you watch it. Okay? So when scoring fights, it's very important to be unemotional and to try and keep an eye on everything and just think about scoring the fight, not get caught up in who you want to win or the excitement of the action and all that kind of stuff, because that can really distort your perception of what's going on. Because many times I've watched the fight a second time around and I've scored it very differently to how I scored it first time around. Now, I didn't score the Pacquiao-Bradley rematch when I watched it. I kept score till about maybe the 5th or 6th round, and I just lost track and I stopped scoring the fight. I was just enjoying watching it. But other people did score it and they had Bradley winning by a couple of rounds. Okay? Now, obviously, the fanatical Pacquiao fans, of which there are many, as we know, there are a whole heap of fanatical Pacquiao fans who are going to just be livid with just even the idea that someone could have scored this fight for Tim Bradley. And they're not going to use any objectivity. They're not going to use any rational thought process. They're just going to get angry and start shouting and cussing and saying anyone who scored it for Bradley is an idiot, this, that, and the other. That's what they're going to do. Okay? Me personally, I want to take an intellectual approach. I want to go watch the fight again. I want to find the highest quality video I can of the fight, possibly in HD if I can find it. I know one of those Russian TV networks often gets posted, their fights often get posted to YouTube in HD. So I'm going to try and look for it in HD on from one of those Russian TV networks. But anyway, I'm going to have a look at it again and see if there's a valid case to be made that Bradley won the fight or not. There may not be a valid case. I'm going to have a look at it again and see. But as I said, one thing I do know is that, another thing I know is that commentators can influence the way fans see a fight. And Larry Merchant and the HBO team, Larry Merchant was on a different broadcast than the HBO broadcast, but I was switching between a couple of different broadcasts, and Larry Merchant was very biased towards Pacquiao. So were the others on that broadcast. And from my understanding, from what I've been told, the HBO team were also very biased towards Pacquiao and against Bradley, but not quite as bad as the Larry Merchant and Bob Sheridan broadcast was. So I'm going to go, and again, like I say, that can really influence the way people see a fight. If the broadcast team is only calling shots that are landed by a particular fighter, that can stick in your mind. Okay? So I want to watch the fight again with the sound off, as I often do with many fights. This is not just I do with Pacquiao fights, I do it with Floyd fights, with, Klitschko fight. Any fight that is in any way competitive and there are people saying the decision should have gone the other way, I normally find time to watch the fight again with the sound off and just give my, honest assessment. There's no biases here. You know me. Not biased towards Pacquiao, not biased towards Bradley. I had Pacquiao winning both fights, okay, when I watched them. The first fight, I watched it several times because people were back and forth about whether Pacquiao really won it. Some people claiming Bradley won it. I don't see how Bradley won that first fight. I can't make a case. I thought Pacquiao won it pretty decisively, okay? But I want to go and look at his second fight again and decide for myself. Have any of you watched it again? Obviously, like I say, some of you guys are going to be biased. You're going to be biased towards Pacquiao, and some of you are going to be biased against Pacquiao. But those of you who are objective, who are of an objective mindset, who don't have an agenda, I'd like to hear from you guys in the comment section below. Have you watched the fight again? And did it seem closer when you watched it again? Did any of you actually score it for Bradley? I've seen some people in the comment section of my post-fight video saying they scored it a draw. 1 or 2 people had it for Bradley. A lot of people, maybe the majority of people, certainly neutral people, were saying it wasn't as wide as the judges had it. They were saying that 118, 110 was too wide in Pacquiao's favor, and it was more like maybe 116, 112, somewhere around there. That would have been a more realistic margin. So drop your comments below. Let me know how you feel. This is Hatman. I'm out.